All right, in this explainer, we're going to dig into a feeling that, let's be honest, a lot of us have felt. It's this invisible weight of financial stagnation. We're going to break down exactly why earning more money doesn't always feel like you're winning the game.
So, let me just ask you this right off the bat. Have you ever gotten that raise you were fighting for? Or landed that better job, and you think to yourself, yes, this is it. But then, a few months down the line, life somehow feels heavier, not lighter.
It's such a strange paradox, isn't it? The paycheck gets bigger, but then so do the bills, the commitments, all the obligations. And that feeling of freedom you were so sure was coming, it just vanishes. And it's replaced by this feeling that you've actually got less room to breathe than you did before.
Well, this feeling actually has a name, and that's what we're going to get into. The source material for this calls it the invisible weight.
Okay, to really get our heads around this, let's switch from just the feeling to the cold, hard facts. We're going to really dive in and look at the anatomy of a paycheck to see where all that money is actually going.
So let's paint a picture here, one that might feel really familiar to a lot of you. We're talking about someone, say, in their late 20s or early 30s. They're educated, they've got a decent job. I mean, they're doing everything they were told they were supposed to do to be successful. And look, they're earning a solid income, let's say $70,000 a year. Now, on paper, that sounds great, right? That should be more than enough to be comfortable.
But, we don't get to spend that big annual number. The government gets its slice first. So after taxes, that 70 grand turns into something more like $4,000 a month. That's the actual number we're working with here. And wow, just look at how fast that $4,000 disappears. And we're not talking about anything crazy here. No fancy trips, no designer clothes. This is just life. A comfortable, not even luxury apartment, a car to get around, those pesky student loans, and, food and utilities. And just like that, boom, you're left with $500 for the rest of the month.
And here's the real kicker. That $500, it doesn't feel like extra money, does it? It doesn't feel like fun money or savings. It feels fragile. Like one flat tire, one surprise dentist bill, and it's just gone. There's absolutely no cushion.
So what happens to that tiny, fragile buffer? Well, that brings us to the next chapter of this story. It's what the source calls the slow creep. And this is the really sneaky part, because it happens so quietly, you barely even notice it's happening at all. See, this whole thing isn't about going on some wild spending spree. Not at all. It's about a series of small, totally logical, justified decisions. A slightly better apartment opens up in a nicer area. Your car's getting old, so a more adult, reliable car just seems reasonable. And every time you tell yourself those magic words, hey, I can afford this.
Okay, so now imagine you finally get that raise you've been working so hard for. Let's say it's an extra $500 a month after taxes. Awesome! This is it, right? This is your chance to finally build that cushion and get ahead.
But here's where it all goes. That justified apartment upgrade, that eats up $300. The new, nicer car payment, there's another $150. Throw in a few new streaming services or subscriptions and poof, the entire raise is gone. It's been completely absorbed by new, higher fixed costs.
The source material just nails it with this quote. These little, seemingly harmless decisions, they quietly convert every raise into obligation. Your income went up, sure, but your mandatory bills went up right along with it. You're literally right back where you started.
So why? Why do we keep falling into this trap? It's not because we're bad at math. It really isn't. It's all about psychology. So let's take a look at what's going on inside our brains when we think about money.
Okay, so you can really think about money in two different ways. On one side, you have the pure, logical, mathematical way. But on the other side, you have how we actually make decisions, which is all social and emotional. We don't really ask, what can I afford based on these numbers alone? No, we ask, what feels normal for someone my age with my job? Our spending is completely anchored to what we see around us, what our friends and coworkers are doing.
And there's another little brain glitch at work here. We are terrible at understanding permanence. When you sign that new lease or get that car loan, it feels like a choice you're making right now. But it very, very quickly just becomes a fixed bill, a part of your life. And trying to go backwards, to downgrade, that feels like admitting failure. So we just don't. Those reversible choices almost never get reversed.
So what's the end result of all this? What's the real actual cost?
Well, it might not be what you think.
The outcome here isn't being broke. It's something the source calls financial stagnation. It's when your income keeps rising, but your flexibility, your freedom to actually choose things doesn't budge. You're not poor, you're just financially stiff. You're stuck.
And this right here, this lays out the trade-off perfectly. On one side, you gain real, tangible stuff, a nicer apartment, a better car, a little more convenience. But look at what you lose. It's the intangible stuff, the things that are actually way more valuable. The ability to just quit that job you hate, the freedom to take a risk on a new idea, the power to buy back your own time.
All right, so this all sounds a little bleak, right? But how do we break the cycle? The answer isn't just earn more money. The answer is a fundamental shift in how we think. So what does this new mindset actually look like? Well, first off, it's not about being cheap or living poorly. It's about living deliberately. It's about looking at that new car and not seeing a reward, but seeing a 5-year commitment. It's about getting a raise and not seeing it as permission to spend more, but as leverage to buy your own freedom. And you know, the most important part is this. This isn't about having ironclad discipline. It's about just having clarity. Clarity about what you really want.
So here's a practical takeaway. The next time you're thinking about a big purchase, try asking a different question. Don't ask, can I afford this now? Instead, ask yourself, what does this cost me later? What future freedom am I trading for this thing today?
And I want to leave you with this final, really powerful thought from the source. The most expensive financial decisions rarely feel expensive when you make them. Think about that. The decisions that cost us the most are the ones that feel totally normal and justified in the moment. And that is the invisible.